Well, hello and welcome to my house. Do come in. So I thought that it would be a nice thing to do to invite you in and give you a tour of my home, because that's the kind of thing that I just really love watching myself. I love the way that people have done up their houses and so on, and it's just I just find it really interesting. I must be a very nosy person, I think. So I thought I would invite you in and make it as much as possible as though you'd popped in for a cup of coffee. So I've done the washing up and I've tidied away my laptop and things from my desk. But apart from that, as people always say when you visit and you walk in the door, they go, "Excuse the mess." So I do not live in a fancy house. I live in a 1980s bungalow. I live in a house that I love, a home that I love, but it is by no means fancy. I don't think we've bought anything new for it. And it's all done bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So a little bit of history first, what we started off with. The house is a bungalow that was built by the next door farmer for his son to live on. So got planning permission and an agricultural tie was put on the house. So it could be built, but it had to be lived in by somebody working on the farm. And then after however long it is that you have to abide by that, I think 10 years or so, an application was made to take the tie off and the house was sold on the open market. It went through one or two owners and then we bought it in August 2003, just in time for the children to start school and nursery. And at that time, it looked quite different from the way that it does now. And I'll show you this sort of like the sales photographs that we bought from. And you can see it's that very, very typical style that you see all over Scotland and the north of England. It's sort of almost like a kit kind of house. And it had really, really small rooms. So the bit that I'm going to show you today, which is what we call our big space, is called the big space because it was made out of 5 tiny spaces, 5 small rooms. And we lived with the house as we bought it for maybe about 7 years, and then we got the money to take all of the walls out in the big space and add on a couple of bits. So where I'm standing at the moment is one of the bits that we added on, and it is a porch, because I do think that houses in Scotland should really have porches, and particularly they should have a porch that extends out the front so that whoever is standing at your door does not get wet. But also you kind of need a space that is a gap between the front door and the rest of the house. So we've got this porch and it's very small. It's sort of like 5.5 foot by 8 maybe, and it was designed to fit 2 particular bits of furniture. And the first is this dresser. Now, I bought this dresser when I was in my very early 20s. It came into an antique shop that I worked at and I just fell in love with it. It was sold in Liberty's department store, and you can see all the beautiful kind of copper work, which I leave uncleaned. It's beaten out and it's got this gorgeous Glasgow rose kind of window at the top there, and it's made of oak that is then treated to make it kind of like a dark oak. And it has plate rails so you can put the plates up properly and things. And it's just really nice and neat. And I have obviously travelled with it from house to house to house. But I knew that I wanted it to be in the porch because I think a dresser in a porch is really nice, but it's a very small space. So it was made to fit this pretty much exactly. And you can see that it has a kind of like a slightly eclectic mix of things. At the top I've got lots of spongeware bowls, all of which are really, really broken. And in the spring I buy little pots of bulbs and I plant them up into those bowls and I put hazel sticks all around and then they bloom. And that's the only time that they are ever like brought down. But I love them. And when they're up high, you can't see that they are in so many bits. And then on the second shelf, I've got some painted dolls. I don't know where I got them. I have had them forever. I bought them for myself. I don't know where they came from. There is the one thing that has been handed down my maternal family, and which I asked my mum if I could have last year. She gave me this. She's decluttering, and I was slightly concerned that it would disappear in the decluttering. And it is for jamming a knitting needle in, and you would have it on your belt. And it is carved with a romantic message. And there are lots of these actually in the museum at the northeast of England, the museum at Beamish. And a knitting thing where you could put your knitting needle into the sheath. You would then put the sheath into your belt, so it's kind of like quite tight to you, and then you'd be able to knit one-handed as you walked. So it was all the sort of like mill girls and so on would do knitting on their way to work. Often they would be knitting for a sweetheart. So I suppose this is the exchange of gifts. And then down on my shelf, I have my most recent purchase. I got some birthday money from my parents and I have bought this beautiful Dove of Peace plate by the Yorkshire potter, Charlotte Salt. I love Charlotte's work, and I thought this one, with the world today, I wanted to be able to buy something from an artist, and this Dove of Peace and all the hope that goes into that, I think, is just beautiful. So I have that, and I have some very old and damaged Scottish plates. Got this wonderful mug that says "Trust in God," and on the other side it's got a great big long poem about how wonderful it is to be a farmer, which I can read out for you. Let the wealthy and great roll in splendour and state. I envy them not, I declare it. I eat my own lamb, my own chickens and ham. I shear my own fleece and I wear it. I have lawns, I have bowers, I have fruits, I have flowers. The lark is my morning alarmer. So my jolly boys now, here's Godspeed the plough, long life and success to the farmer. And it's got industry produceth wealth. So I do rather love that mug. And then I have another mug which has, well, not a mug, a sugar bowl that says "Be canny with the sugar," and that's all stamped out, which I just think is brilliant. And then moving along my shelf, it's all just things that I love and have collected. I have two amazing Venetian glass birds. Venice is a city that I love, and I've been lucky enough to go a few times. Went with the girls when they were young teenagers, and we bought the pigeon. And then I went back for my 50th, and we went back to the same shop. It's a master glassworker, and he was no longer working. He's very elderly, but he couldn't find me another pigeon, but he did go into his back shop and he found me this very beautiful bird. So that's what I got for my 50th birthday. And then we have another mug, and again you can see very broken, which has a bridge over the River Wear, and it's got all of the details here. And I love this colour of pink, but because it's broken, it has to have a jam jar inside the mug for all of my sweet peas. And I think this is what home is to me. It's, things don't need to be valuable or precious or anything. They just need to be things that you love. And there are things here which are, you know, spent money on. You know, my little bird there is by an incredible artist and was my 50th birthday present. But other things, all of the broken things, have been under a tenner, you know, but I have just fallen in love with them and I have kept them, and they have become part of home. Now here, on the wall, this is not fancy plastering or anything like that. It is polystyrene letters from the shop Ree in Northumberland, put onto the wall and then painted over. And it says, "Why walk when you can fly?" which is a line from a Mary Chapin Carpenter song, which is really means a lot to the family. So put it on the whole wall. You come through and you can see why it is called the big space. It's just where this stove is, was one room. That was my older daughter's bedroom. And then behind it, through those sort of what is now little holes, alcoves, was kind of a dining room, and then there was a living room and a kitchen and the utility room, all in this space. And it also had very low ceilings, so very practical, very easy to come in from lambing and kind of heat up one room. But I really love light and space and angles. So when we were doing the renovation, I read a book called The Not So Big House, which is an American book, and it was kind of about how really the amount of space that you have isn't the main thing, it's how you use it. And the author talked about diagonals. So this view that you're looking at the moment from the hall right to the far end of the sunroom is what I based the whole of the house renovation on. To put on a sunroom on there that would give us a great big long diagonal looking out towards some sunshine. And the book also talked about the importance of having alcoves. So when we took the walls down, decided to kind of create little snug areas. So there's a window seat here, this massive, massive stove, which was built for us by Steve Dowling, who has a stove making company down in Dumfries and Galloway. And he builds these just beautifully industrial stoves, which really power out the heat and are also gorgeous to look at. And I wanted there just to be a place that had no television and just seats to gather around a stove. For all the time that the children lived here, they're now in their 20s, we had no internet in any of the bedrooms. So if people wanted to use internet, they had to be out in the big space and socialising. I love ceramics, as you might be able to tell. So the top plate is by Makiko Hastings and the bottom one by Rebecca Brown. I'll put the links into the show notes. I just think that they're absolutely gorgeous and they bring me joy every single day. Then this, I suppose, is the kind of like the main living area from the house, and would you call it a gallery wall? Maybe you would. The Beware of Bull sign was here when we moved in. It was in the attic. And everything else has been sort of like acquired over the years, mainly, I would say, as Christmas and birthday presents and gifts. So the yellow picture in the middle there was made by my oldest daughter at a craft thing. The handkerchiefs embroidery is by my great friend Christine MacArthur and was a gift from her. Painting of Bernardine Evaristo is by my friend Hazel Blue and was a present to her because she thought that the background to it was so like our gallery wall. And on the other side is the most spectacular piece of furniture. It is a set of apothecary drawers, which I bought at a local antique centre 2 years before we extended the house and opened it up. So this enormous wall of drawers was crammed into that front corridor. I had to sidle past it for 2 years. But it's worth it because it's absolutely amazing. It came from a pharmacy down in the Borders. This kitchen, which you can see is very, very basic. Cookery books on the outside, and then beautiful worktops, but very simple kitchen and very messy under counter shelves. The map behind the cooker, which is just behind a piece of glass, is of this local area. And then round to the pantry, which is a mix of old dressers. This one, the red one, was from a school, and it's still got all of that school gloss paint and plastic on it because I kind of think that's important. So you can see my food storage is not exactly the most organised, and I do wind up my younger daughter by not having anything in the correctly labelled jars. And you can see as we come into the sunroom that it just gives you this feeling of space and light and something to walk towards. And you can tell that I was looking at a lot of Carl Larsson paintings as well, with all of the square paned opening windows, and in the winter all the pots of geraniums overwinter here. I have my beautiful table and chairs, which are just so comfortable and so bright and so light. So I really hope that you've enjoyed that little tour. It's always a funny thing showing people around your home, because I feel that a home isn't somewhere where you go out and buy lots of new things or spend lots and lots of money on having everything matching and things. And it's also, for me, not somewhere that should be really tidy or show homey. I remember when I was in primary school, one of my school friends' house was gleaming and so tidy, and there was never anything about, and everything was sort of hoovered twice a day, and there was never a speck of dust. And I always felt that as soon as I went into that house, I was polluting it. I was making it a mess just by my presence. Because for me, a home is something completely different. It's something where you build up layer upon layer of memories and precious things. I mean, you can see I'm not a minimalist at all. And that's because I just love things that mean something. And often that's things that have been broken along the way, or things that have been made for me, all put together. So it does mean that our home is a really, really personal to us kind of space. So I hope that you've enjoyed having a glimpse into it. And I shall see you next Friday. Bye bye.